All right, what's going on YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So next week we're getting Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz. Okay, we kind of got a break this week. There's no major fights going on this week with boxing, so we can start talking about the heavyweight division. I'm going to start doing videos on Joshua against Ruiz. I see a lot of channels already making videos about these fights, and I'm also going to do a video on Michael Hunter against Alexander Povetkin. Okay, but this week, this is gonna be like a pre breakdown of the fight. I'm not gonna do a full breakdown. I already know and decided where I'm gonna go with this fight, but I just want to speak on a lot of other things too leading up to this fight, and do a separate breakdown and probably throw that out there either by tomorrow or Friday, the latest. All right, so be on the lookout for that. Now this year has been a rocky year for the heavyweight division. There's a lot of things that occurred and not going exactly the way I thought. Okay, we never got the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight. All right, Wilder, after the Fury fight, went on to fight Dominic Brazil, knocked him out. Me and my pops went earlier this year. We covered it on the channel, and Wilder is now rematching Luis Ortiz. Right, this fight is going to be a pay-per-view fight. By the way, this is going to be on Fox Sports pay-per-view. Which is also kind of surprising because even though the first fight was a great fight, I was there, I saw it. It was a great, lot of drama in the fight. It was a great fight, probably the most entertaining Deontay Wilder fight. A lot of people don't really want to see the rematch like that. Okay, the demand for the rematch is really not that great right now. You know, so I'm kind of surprised because it's it's probably not going to do the numbers what that the Tyson Fury fight did. Okay, there was a lot more demand for that fight. I think there was a lot of demand for Ortiz in the first fight, so I think they should have just took the risk and made that one pay per view. At that time, I don't think it was pay per view. I ended up going, so I can't remember. I don't believe it was. I think it was on Showtime. Yeah, so it wasn't pay per view, but they ended up making the Tyson Fury fight a pay per view. All right, but this fight is going to be pay per view now, and it seems like Showtime and Fox and the PBC are making a lot of pay per view fights. All right, they're making a lot. ESPN fights are usually on the zone. I know they made Bud Crawford versus Khan, which I thought that was a fight that didn't warrant a pay per view, but they're making this fight a pay per view, and the numbers are probably not going to be great, but I guess they're trying to gauge what Wilder can do without Tyson Fury, without another big superstar, and they're just gonna push it based on the action in the first fight because it was a lot of action there. And then Wilder really literally got hurt. He got hurt. He barely survived that seventh round, and I guess they just figured, you know what, we might as well just make it a pay per view just to see what we can do with Wilder because the Brazil fight definitely wasn't going to be enough for a pay per view, you know. So they said, you know what, let's put him back in there with Ortiz and let's do a pay per view. Now, going on about the heavyweight division, you got Tyson Fury, who's pretty much ducked the rematch. I mean, he signed with ESPN and it's a lot of money. So, when that news came out, I wasn't really that upset because I guess Tyson is trying to secure his situation. So he got the bag, and I figured, all right, maybe we'll just get the fight a little later, and from what we were told, they were assigned to fight in February, but Tyson Fury got into a tough fight with Otto Wallen, got a bad cut. That made me feel right there that this Wilder fight really might not happen. That was the first thing. Then the second thing was the WWE fight, which already happened, but he's still, I guess, in the mix of that. Talking about tag team partners and all this stuff, and then he's also now talking about considering going to UFC. I don't know how serious he is. You know how Fury is. He's a funny dude. He's a little weird. I don't know. He contradicts himself. He's like this one day. I don't know what Fury is really gonna do. But it doesn't seem like he's interested in a Wilder fight. I really don't think at this point he really wants to fight Wilder. And that's not no shade. It's just I'm just basing it off his behavior. He doesn't sound like a guy that really wants to fight Wilder. Every once in a while he'll talk about it, but he seems to be focused on the WWE. He seems to be focused on the UFC. And then on top of that, he has a cut that was really bad that might delay the fight a little bit. I mean, there is time between now, and there's a lot of time between now and February, but it's really not that much time because if they are gonna really fight, we should know probably by another couple weeks after Wilder and Ortiz fight is over if Wilder is to win that fight, right? So it's it's like I don't know what happened this year. Kind of like this year, uh, it seems everything is focused mainly on Joshua Ruiz. What is going to happen in that rematch? Is Joshua going to win? If Joshua wins, where does he go from there? Does he defend that IBF strap, whatever? Where's Ruiz going to do? Is he going to defend that strap or he's going to let it go and go on to fight Wilder? At least Wilder on the PBC end, if Andy Ruiz is to win that fight, Wilder will probably end up fighting Ruiz right there and getting a unification match because that fight is pretty easy to be made. Ruiz wants that fight, and I'm sure Wilder is going to want it as well. So, if Wilder does win, uh, we'll probably see a Ruiz fight if Ruiz win as well. I don't know what happens if Joshua wins. I have no idea what Joshua is going to do, but I know Ruiz, if he wins this fight, he's definitely going to fight Deontay Wilder, especially if Tyson Fury continues to act flaky. In fact, even if Fury decides that he really wants to face Wilder, I mean, if Ruiz win this fight, why even fight Tyson Fury? If you can unify with Andy Ruiz, Now, I'm disappointed that Wilder just and Joshua fight didn't happen, and I expressed that multiple times. Y'all know, but let's be honest here with ourselves. If Ruiz wins this fight, that's what we're gonna get. That's the unification match that we're gonna get. It is what it is. All right. Um. So this fight here, at first, I really didn't care for it too much. Okay, I didn't really care about the fight. Wilder already stopped him, even though it was a great fight. And I understand that Ortiz hurt him really bad in the seventh. I mean, for Wilder to even survive that round, and even in the eighth round, I was watching it the other day. People don't even talk about the eighth round because we talk about the eighth round as far as a doctor holding the fight up and giving Wilder more time to recover. But a lot of people don't talk about Luis Ortiz's performance in that eighth round. He landed a lot of left hands in that eighth round. All right, and I got to give Wilder credit. He has a good chin. All right, because he didn't get knocked down. He was able to survive the seventh round, walk back to his corner, survive the eighth round where he was still hurt. He took a lot of left hands in that eighth round, and he got his second win, and he came back in the ninth and tenth rounds and was able to stop Ortiz. So I got to give him a lot of credit for that. But like I said, a lot of people are not really interested in the rematch because Wilder did stop him at the end of the day. He did drop him a few times. He dropped him earlier in the fight, like the fifth round, and dropped him a couple more times in the later rounds. Okay, and even hurt him at points as well. So people don't really care. But what I will say is Ortiz has been away from his family for 3 months. Okay. Not only that, but he looks amazing. This is probably the youngest he's ever looked. Well, I'm sure some of it has to do with the fact that he grew his hair out, but he looks in great shape. He looks like he's trying to really win this fight. The thing is, everybody make jokes about him being old, but if you are the best version of your current self, that's all that really matters. I mean, if he goes on to lose and Wilder stops him or whatever, hey, at least we know that this guy was serious about this fight. You know, um, it's not going to be like this Billy Joe Saunders fight that we saw last week, where Saunders is up and down throughout his career. You know, uh, it looks like Ortiz really took that loss hard, and he would. I mean, just look at his personality. Dude is really cocky. He thinks he could beat everybody. You know, just look at his body language in the first fight. He was juicing with confidence in that first fight, and I think that loss really damaged him because he's looking at it like most people. Like, I'm the more technical fighter. I'm the more experienced fighter. I'm an amateur. This, that, whatever, whatever. And for him to go in there and get stopped in front of his family like that, it probably did a lot to him. You know. Yeah, we seen them with fights, a couple of fights since then. We seen the Christian Hammer fight, which another fight that I went to. Um, I haven't seen the fight since then. Like, I haven't watched it on the internet or anything, but most people wasn't impressed with that fight. I know I wasn't impressed with his performance in that fight. Christian Hammer is not a bad fighter at all, but uh, just I expected a little bit more against Ortiz. That was the first fight that I felt that he kind of looked old, okay, compared to all of his other fights. So, being that he looks in great shape right now, it looks like he might be the best version of himself, his current self. Whatever age he really is, he might really just be 40. Um, but there's a chance he may be older. At the end of the day, as long as he's coming in to the best, as the best version of himself, and I believe that that's the only way he's going to stand a chance in this rematch, is that he has to be his best current self because he's a little older. Okay, he's aging more and more, and in order for him to compete and for this fight to be competitive, he needs to at least bare minimum be the best version of himself. And I was saying that with Saunders, if he is to fight Canelo, to even be competitive, you need to be the best version of yourself. Um, the first fight was very shocking to me how technical that fight was. Wilder fought an extremely cautious fight. It just goes to show how much respect he had. Because you go and watch the Tyson Fury fight, Wilder's just throwing right hand after right hand. He's sitting down on everything. Doesn't care that he misses. Doesn't care if he was getting countered. I just think he didn't have any respect for Tyson Fury. Didn't have any respect for his power. So even if Wilder was missing and he looked sloppy and he just kept doing the same thing over and over again until it landed. Whereas in the Ortiz fight, he was a lot more relaxed. Okay, he wasn't coming out swinging, throwing bombs early. Okay, he wasn't sitting down on his punches early. He was more focused on speed and parrying the jab and everything like that. Um, it was a very technical fight against Luis Ortiz. We never really seen Wilder like that before. All right. Even when he had fights where he was losing a few rounds early on like that. Uh, Still, I never seen Wilder fight like that. So most people and in myself, I still believe that Wilder's gonna win this rematch. I think people are not giving Luis Ortiz enough credit. I think people are saying things like he's gonna get stomped out in a few rounds. And listen, it might happen. This is boxing at the end of the day. Wilder really might just knock him out really quickly. It might happen. Who knows? I think the difference is I think Wilder is going to come in, being that he has the experience of fighting Ortiz. I think he's going to be throwing bigger punches early on because I think he wants to improve on how he looked in the previous fight. He wants to make it look like that fight never happened, just like he did with Mr. Vern. So I think that I'm expecting Wilder to try to come out and start throwing some heavier punches early on. Okay. Um, and I think Ortiz is going to be more focused on going a distance because if you look at the first fight and being that it was stopped in the 10th round, I think Ortiz only had one fight that went to 10 rounds before that. I can't remember what fight, but he's never fought a 12 round fight before. Okay. It's never gone to 12 rounds before. I think the furthest I think he went to 10 rounds once for that. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I did look at BoxRec a couple days ago. But I think he's only had one 10 round fight, and I think that was the fight against Christian Hammer. Outside of that, I don't think he ever went past like 8 rounds or something. Okay, all his knockouts were most of his fights were knockouts really early in their fights. So I think he's going to be more focused on trying to pace himself in a rematch, and being that he's in better shape physically. Um, hopefully he's getting his road work in, uh, but he looks to be in better shape. So he might be even better conditioned in this fight because I think he lost mainly because of. Well, I think the scorecards were in Wilder's favor regardless, but I don't believe that Wilder was winning by the ninth round. Going into the ninth round, I didn't believe that Wilder was winning the fight. I know he knocked Ortiz down, but I had Ortiz up on points. Uh, but I think he's just going to try to pace himself better so he can be strong at the end of the fight because he was shot by the ninth and 10th round, whereas Wilder looked very strong. He looked like he got himself back together, and he just looked better, sharper. He looked like he could go another 5 rounds, whereas Ortiz looked like he was shot by the ninth round. All right, so I think that's what Ortiz's plan is, and I think Wilder's plan is just to knock him out early, you know. Um, but I think for the people that do want to see the rematch, I know a lot of people wanted a rematch immediately after, like right after the first fight. Not now, but right after the first fight because of what happened in the 7th round. But we never got it. I think it just lost a little steam. I don't know what they're gonna do with pay-per-view, but I'm probably sure that they're just probably just doing it anyway, just to see what he can do on his own. All right. So I'm gonna give you a full breakdown. I wanted to speak on a lot of these things. I think I covered mostly everything. Outside of the actual breakdown, I'm gonna do a thorough breakdown like I normally would do on this fight, uh, either tomorrow or Friday. Within the next couple of days, and be on the lookout. Got to do a video now as well talking about Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, because there's a lot of things I want to talk about that fight. I mean, I think that might be the hardest fight to really predict because it's too many unknowns. It's too many unknowns, and I'm gonna speak on that too. All right, so make sure you subscribe again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Be on the lookout for that breakdown coming this week, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.